What's going on, Rope Break family? Jean-Paul Leek here, and I'm going to be bringing you your AEW Dynamite review. So, first off, was it a good show? And the answer is yes. And we're 2 weeks now removed from Full Gear, and we're going into the Thanksgiving show. And they're going to do some special stuff for that. Um, they want to make it fun for the fans, but there's not going to be really anything major going on. So now this is the period where feuds are kind of building. There's not going to be any real big blow off or anything like that anymore. But besides all that, I think that this was a really good episode, and let's get right into it. So it starts off with probably the match I was looking forward to the most: Ray Phoenix and Nick Jackson. And the major selling point of this match was how Nick Jackson, he didn't have his brother Matt. He was power bombed last week, so he was selling that injury, and that was the whole thing. Every time these guys, because the whole match, they just went back and forth. It was like they were playing the game, 2K19, because 2K20 is pretty trash. But 2K19, they was just counter with like unlimited reversals, counter for counter for counter. Nobody could really hit that big move until they got the upper hand. There was a couple big spots, but the whole point of the match is every time Ray Phoenix would get the upper hand after like he would beat up Nick, and then Nick would finally counter back, but he was exhausted from getting beat up by Phoenix. He would like look towards the corner to tag in his brother, thinking it was like a tag match. And they said that was, a thing. He's not used to singles competition. I forget how many years they said it's been since he wrestled as a singles competitor. So that was the major selling point. But like I said, these guys, they went back and forth, and when they did nail the moves on each other, I mean, everything was devastating and hard hits. Chops on Ray by Ray Phoenix, those are devastating just as much as his kicks. And he hit this beautiful cutter on the floor, and even though they have mats, I mean, that still had to hurt. And so Nick Jackson, he was getting beat up pretty good in this match. And then a swanton again by Phoenix on Nick Jackson, but it eventually, like I said, it was just counter for counter. Nick Jackson kept hanging in there. And then towards the end of this match, Nick Jackson, he delivered a German suplex on the ring apron, and when he hit it, Phoenix, his head just like bounced, like it was like a bouncy ball just right off the apron. I mean, he flew, and they were like, oh, he killed him, like, oh my god, and they were all freaking out on commentary. They really sold it. I mean, it was a really great spot. And then when he gets him back into the ring, he gets him into or I think he actually hit a Canadian Destroyer or something he hit on Phoenix, and then he put him in the sharpshooter. And when he hit the Destroyer on him, he hit that because I was thinking, why doesn't he just pin him? And then he goes into the sharpshooter, and I'm like, well, because clearly Phoenix is going to win this. As soon as he went to the sharpshooter, I knew Phoenix was going to win. Because realistically, they could have gave this to any guy, and I wouldn't have been upset. I'm a big Lucha Bros fan. They're definitely my favorite tag team in AEW, but a win for either guy is good, in my opinion, so I wouldn't have been too upset. But as soon as he went to that sharpshooter, I knew Phoenix was going to win, and he does eventually crawl to the ropes. And then he hits they called it a muscle buster, but a muscle buster usually he just pulls down on the legs. But he kind of flipped him forward. It was almost like a muscle driver, but commentary sold it as a muscle buster. Phoenix hits that on Nick Jackson for the win. That was really cool to see that, since WWE doesn't do that anymore. So it was really great to see that, and the whole point after the match, because like I said, even as much as I love the Lucha Bros, so does everyone else, all the AEW fans, but they're really trying to make these guys a heel and trying to get that fact over. So after the match was over, Phoenix went to show, or not Phoenix, Nick Jackson went to go show his respect, for a great match, and Phoenix ignored him, walked out of the rings with his hands in the air, smiling, cocky heel. So that was good to like really cement that they're heels. I don't mind it. I usually prefer heels over the baby faces anyway. So really good match in my opinion. I feel like it could have been longer, but I'm happy it wasn't, because I don't think time was an issue in really any of these matches this week. I thought every match, like time management, was great this week. So that's the one thing I'll give him. There was some commentary. Commentary was pretty good. And it was really only the referee botch in the tag team match, which we'll get to later. But everything else I felt was really good, especially the time management, because that was my biggest complaint so far with AEW. So then moving on, we have Britt Baker versus Hikaru Shida. And this was a number one contenders match, I believe. And Hikaru Shida, I was a really big fan of hers ever since, I believe that was on All Out. I believe that was the pay-per-view she debuted on for AEW. I was a big fan of hers since then. I thought if they would have went with any Joshi wrestler, it would have been her. But we know Riho and everything like that. They're really trying to get her over, and that's fine. I'm slowly starting to become a fan of Riho. I still don't know if she's believable, but I'm slowly becoming a fan. I don't know. I mean, not I don't know. I definitely don't think she should have been the champion, but they did what they did, and we have to live with it. So, this match I thought was Britt Baker's one of her best matches. I thought she looked really good in here. I like this match actually more than her Bea Priestley match, and maybe that's just because I'm a bigger fan of Bea and Bea lost, but I thought Britt Baker looked really good in this match, even though she didn't win. And Hikaru Shida, she did one of that spot where she gets the chair and then delivers a jumping knee off the chair. So that was a really cool spot to see. And like I said, both these women really hit each other. I believe Britt Baker was bleeding from her nose. So, like I said, I mean, they were really hitting each other, and that's the one thing about Hikaru Shida is like she causes blood to drip from your nose. She's legit. She's really gonna hit you, and it's gonna be believable. So that's the one thing I really like about her. And then towards the end of this match, Baker countered a pin attempt by Shida, and she went to apply the lockjaw, but Shida countered out of that, and that's where I thought Britt Baker was going to win. But she couldn't get it really locked in. Shida kept moving her head, and she was like spinning herself, and then she hooked the rope with her foot. So at that point, I still thought it was anyone's game, but then I really thought the match was going to be over there. And then she hit Falcon's Arrow after that for a near fall, and then she hit another devastating running knee, and that was pretty much it. So at least this woman has a finisher. We always say Riho's finisher is like the roll-up. What the heck's her finisher? It's ridiculous. But it was really good to see Hikaru Shida. I feel Britt Baker, her stories would be Priestley, but the only thing with that is, like we said on the channel, is Bea is with Stardom full time. She can only come over to AEW for certain dates and stuff, I believe. So that's the one thing that kind of stinks. She can't be involved in like really prominent storylines, but I think they're really trying to like almost do the same thing with Britt Baker as they are with some of these other guys. They're trying to like, it's a slow build with them, which I appreciate. I don't like when you just fast track somebody. I mean, somebody obviously needs to be your champion, your inaugural champion for a brand new company and promotion, but certain guys are right there, like Jericho, and SCU was proven, or like the Lucha Bros. They had a whole bunch of tag teams. But sometimes you want to take guys that are, like the ones that are up and coming and really groom them for that championship role, and that's what I think they're doing with Britt Baker. So to me, I don't know if you give the belt to Hikaru Shida, but that's what I would like to see, but I don't see it happening. I feel whoever Riho drops it to, unless they have a lot of stock in Shida, which I think she's good, but I feel if they would give the belt to Hikaru Shida now, she would just drop it to someone else soon. She would just be like a transitional champion. I mean, maybe this match could end in a DQ. Awesome Kong could come out. Brandy Rhodes could stake claim that they should be the number one contender or something. So I don't know. We'll see. But I think the right woman won in this match. And like I said, I'm really excited to see where they go, because this was the first kind of like real development now for the women's division. with somebody new. We started to see Hikaru Shida on AEW Dark and this and that, and then she had the match with Shanna a few weeks ago, which was a really good match. And that's the one thing. Now you're seeing how good Hikaru Shida is because she's having good matches with all these women, and that's not taking anything away from the other women because they're very talented as well. But now, like, we're seeing these women are talented, so we need to get storylines invested. But like I said, it was a good match, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. So then we get the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. And this Battle Royal was pretty much, there was 12 men, and then the last 2 are going to fight next week for the Diamond Ring, the Dynamite Diamond Ring, I guess it is. I'm not sure what this ring is, if this is going to be like a trophy, how WWE had the Greatest Royal Rumble trophy, and like, the Mae Young or whatever trophy, or not the Mae Young, because that's the Mae Young Classic, but whatever, the Women's Battle Royal, I don't think they had, it was supposed to be the Fabulous Moolah, and then they got rid of the name, but I don't know what this is, if they can defend it, if this ring gives them a number 1 contendership, or like, I don't really know what this ring represents, so that I'm excited to see. I hope it's not just a novelty thing. I really feel like MJF is gonna win this. I guess we'll just get into this. I'll go through the Battle Royal here, but MJF was in Billy Gunn, Kip Sabian, Jungle Boy, Hangman Page, Chuck Taylor, Joey Janela, Sonny Kiss, Orange Cassidy, Trent, Pentagon Jr., and Jimmy Havoc. And I didn't really know who was going to win this, even when I saw the guys that were in. You obviously thought Hangman Page was going to come down to the end. And MJF, there's a lot of stock in him, and especially his storyline with Cody and just really building him up as a credible, dickhead heel. And, Pentagon Jr. was in there, and I didn't think Pentagon was going to be in, and I'm like, oh, he's going to have to get, pretty far in this thing. I didn't think he should win it, but Rey Fenix is up on the apron, and commentary brings this up. They're like, oh, look, it's Rey Fenix. And he's wearing a different color mask than he was in his match with Nick Jackson. I saw that right away, and I was like, why would he change his mask? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Then as soon as it starts, he pulls off the mask. It's Christopher Daniels. He distracts him, and then Pentagon gets thrown out right away. So that was something where it wasn't, like, I didn't appreciate him getting thrown out right away. I mean, it definitely continues their feud, and if you weren't going to have him win it, I guess it doesn't make sense, but I don't know. I always like to see Pentagon wrestling. I would like to see him maybe throw a guy or 2 out of the ring before that happened. But anyway, it was cool to see Billy Gunn in there. He can still, do some of his moves, and he still looks good for his age, so that was cool. I like when they bring those old timers in. I don't know if guys like Jerry Lynn or Dean Malenko would ever do something like that. They might be a little too old or out of shape, but that would be cool to see guys like that come in, and they bring in Tommy Dreamer from time to time, guys like that. But this Battle Royal didn't really make, it didn't really do too much. Like, the only really point of this was just the MJF and Hangman Page. They kind of rekindled that feud from All Out when they had that Battle Royal for to determine the number 1 contender against the Kenny and Jericho match. So, there was a back and forth between those two in that Battle Royal, and then that continued in this one. So now when they fight next week, because obviously those 2 guys, I think once Pentagon got knocked out, you knew it was going to come down to them. And the only other spot of interest was Sean Spears came in and he knocked Joey Janela. He was up on the apron, or not on the apron, on the turnbuckle, and Sean Spears pulled him down and knocked him, eliminated him from the Battle Royal. So then their feud is continuing, which I'm happy to see. I really want to get some storyline and promos between them because we've seen enough matches and fighting and interference. Now I want to, hear promos and see that kind of stuff. So it came down then to Jungle Boy. He was eliminated by Sabian, only to be pulled to the mat by hiding MJF. So then that's how, because MJF was out and you thought, it was going to be Jungle Boy and Hangman Page, and it was like, 2 baby faces, and it would have been, the crowd would have been hot for both these guys. and then MJF pops up, yanks him out, and he climbs up on the apron, starts flexing, and the crowd's booing the crap out of him. So that was that was this battle royal. Like I said, it just pretty much established, continued these two feuds, kind of rekindled this other one since they have Cody out of commission for a while. So MJF needs someone to feud with, and I think MJF is going to go over. The diamond ring would look good, with his scarf and his whole gimmick. He's better than you. And, Hangman, he left the Elite. He said he needs to focus on doing his own thing. So I think a loss here, because I really believe, even though we were back and forth about the idea on the channel, I really think he is going to turn heel. So then, what better to get him down that path of turning heel than to lose this? He lost the chance to be the first champion. He's going to lose the chance to be the first Dynamite diamond ring owner. So that's the direction I think they should go. Like I said, battle royals usually aren't very good, and this one, it was what it was for 12 men. But moving on, then Chris Jericho said he had a major announcement. So Chris Jericho, this was probably one of the best things of the whole promo. He wanted to give an apology for his temper tantrum. Well, first off, he comes down to the ring. It's just him and Jake Hager. And he wants to give an apology, but he can't say sorry. So every time he goes to say sorry, he points the mic at Jake Hager, and he says sorry. So, he keeps going on and on saying, how he's, and then sorry, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. So it was great. Go look this clip up on YouTube. It's hilarious. I'm not doing it justice here, but he keeps going on and talking about that. And then he says, he announces that next week in Chicago that he's going to get the long-awaited thank you that he finally deserves. Because he's going to be putting on this big pre-Thanksgiving Eve celebration extravaganza and all this other stuff. And then SCU's music played and the tag team champs came out. And Scorpio Sky was given the mic. And Scorpio Sky, I just want to say this, I'm not sure how I like his promo work. I just feel like the guy's nervous. And if I'm just talking his in-ring ability, he's amazing. He's definitely the best on SCU. He's one of the best in AEW, and there's definitely a lot of talented guys like we all know. But he just sounded nervous, and then with Jericho in there, it feels like Jericho almost destroyed him. Besides the fact of what he said, but just his delivery of it didn't seem believable. And, that could be he's nervous. He's not used to doing promo work and this and that. But it was just something that, I picked up, which is just a minor pet peeve of mine. But it's something I noticed just compared to how good Jericho is. But, he came out and he pretty much said that he gave Jericho, he's the reason that Jericho freaked out. He's like, you told him you're sorry, but you never told him why you had to apologize. It's because I beat you. I gave you that first loss on your record. And then, pretty much he said that, well, he's going to prove it to him next week and he's going to wrestle him. And then Christopher Daniels whoa, it's not going to be for the AEW World Championship, is it? And then everyone else on the team, they're all like, oh yeah, no, please, not for the championship. I don't know if we can handle that. And Jericho's like, oh, you don't think you can handle it, huh? And he's like, oh, well, what if I make it for it? And they're like, no, please don't. He's like, oh, you don't want it? You don't want it? Well, that's what you're going to get. So they pretty much did a duck season, rabbit season, oh no, please don't do it, reverse psychology kind of deal. So that was pretty cool. So then that's going to be the match for next week. And then I think that it's more, like I said, next week they're building towards this show. It's supposed to just be a more fun, relaxed show. It's, to kind of get you in the holiday season. The family's over. It's the day before Thanksgiving. If you have family visiting from far away or whatnot, you just want to relax. And that's what this episode is going to be. There's not going to be anything crazy or monumental happening. Scorpio Sky is not going to be Jericho. It's a pretty predictable outcome. You had this whole promo broke down because Sky said that he would beat Jericho and he would turn Le Champion into Le Bitch. And pretty much then thing, broke out. SCU and the Inner Circle all started fighting. Santana and Ortiz and Guevara joined in, and then the numbers proved too much. The heels, they handcuffed Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian to the ropes. Jericho and Hager, they obliterated Sky. They just knocked this guy out. And then the Jurassic Express came out and hit the ring, and they sent, everybody pretty much took off then. So I don't know if they're going to maybe do some big thing with those two teams against the Inner Circle, just kind of, for some fun match or something down the line. I don't know. Or if this is just, trying to get a babyface pop for the Jurassic Express. But like I said, I feel even though he got beat down here, and if you're going off WWE booking, whoever gets beat down the week before the championship match is going to win the championship. But I don't think that that's going to happen here. It doesn't make any sense, just storyline-wise or anything. But like I said, it's really going to be one of those things where it's going to give Scorpio Sky even more of a spotlight to grow, and his stock is just going to rise. And like I said, there's definitely going to be a singles push for him at some point, because he's already getting a singles match for the AEW World Championship. So then after, pretty much when the Inner Circle leaves, Luchasaurus had a match with the Librarian, and this lasted as long as you think it would. He pretty much defeated him in like 2 seconds. I think he hit the tail whip. I'm going to be honest with you, I looked away, and when I looked back, he was already in the cover. So this match went about as long as you think it should. And, that's pretty much what Peter Avalon is. To me, he makes me laugh certain times when I see him on the screen. Other times, it's like, all right, get out of here. But, like, when he had the triple threat match last week, I thought that was, he was funny in that. So, what else is there to say? Like, he gets Luchasaurus that pop. The fans love seeing him. I love seeing him. Nothing really else to say here. Then we get Private Party versus Proud and Powerful. And this match, of course, was the tribute in memory of Matt Travis, who tragically passed away. And this match was good. It told a good story. There was a botch in it, of course. Like I said, there's always something with the refs. Aubrey Edwards I like. Earl Hebner's okay. I have gimmick heat with Earl Hebner because he screwed Brett, but pretty much every ref besides those two, there's usually blatant mistakes, and it's like, come on guys, we need to get it together, especially, when it's in a match like this. Everybody's watching this match, it's a bunch of good teams. It's not like, it's two mid-card guys like Brandon Cutler and Kip Sabian, no offense to those guys, but, this is a bigger match, so it didn't really take away too much from me, but it's one of those things that stuck out because of how good this match was. But pretty much Proud and Powerful, they dominated early. There was a commercial during this match, so it was kind of hard to see some of the stuff that was going on, but they pretty much dominated during all of that, and they pretty much were beating up on Quen the whole time. And then he was, at some point, he's finally able to get the separation. He tags Isaiah Cassidy in, and Isaiah Cassidy, he was, of course, the babyface comeback, knocking everybody out. He hit a sunset flip, and then that's where the botch was. And commentary, they quickly try to clear that up, like, oh, I don't think he was the legal man. And they're like, oh, yeah, which was actually a nice cover. It was like a quick, you usually don't hear that too much, where they go, oh, with the wrong competitor, or the ref didn't see the tag, or, something like that. So it was a nice save, but, it's still a botch. But, like I said, it is what it is. And then the damage to Quen's back, he really couldn't hit the silly string from that point. And the baby faces, they just kept getting beat down and beat down. But they, Proud and Powerful, they couldn't put him away. And eventually they got out the sock again, the loaded sock, and they were going to take these guys out. Nick Jackson, he comes down and he distracts them. He's trying to rip that sock away. And while all this is going on, they were able to hit Gin and Juice for the win. And then after the match, Sammy Guevara, he came down and he's, helped his Inner Circle brothers, started beating down Private Party. Dustin Rhodes comes back, big pop for him. He takes out Guevara with his cast, and it was one of those things where it was great to see Dustin come back, but I would have liked to see, I'd like maybe see him just have a match come back, because he came back in this role, and it's cool to see him with Private Party, but to me this match should have been for Matt Travis. That's what this whole point of this match was. Obviously there were storyline implications and stuff a little bit here and there, but I feel like Private Party should have had, like, right when the match was over, they should have that time in the ring to kind of, they brought his T-shirt out, hold up the shirt, do something with that. So a little error there, but nothing too crazy. Like I said, it's good to see Dustin back, and like I said, all these matches they had a good time. I felt that match had good pacing, or the time they were given was good. And the only thing I didn't like was the picture-in-picture. But what are you gonna do? They have to get commercials in at some point. And then this led us to the main event: Darby Allin versus Jon Moxley. And they had a cool little video package promo before this started with Darby Allin, and he had a body bag, and he was crawling in it, had Mox written on it, and he was crowd surfing and all that. So that was pretty cool. And then when he came out to the ring, these guys actually brought his body bag. They just dragged this thing out, and he unzipped himself, popped up. It was really cool. He gets a huge pop, and I had again, like I say, fake gimmick heat. Because they compared him. They said, oh, Jim Ross said there's only one other person who he's seen that reminds him, the reaction and kind of the appearance and persona that this guy has, and they called him the Enigma. And it's you can't really say, Jeff Hardy. So, that again, that's another one of those things where I don't know why AEW, I feel like they're a little petty, and I'm going to get into another issue at the end of this video, but I feel like AEW is a little petty. I mean, WWE is definitely petty as well, but, you want someone to be the bigger man. Someone should just go, okay, we're going to do our own thing, which is what AEW preached, but then they're also being petty. So, I mean, to me, I don't know why you can't say Jeff Hardy. He's probably going to leave WWE, and at least Matt Hardy is, and they're going to join your company. So what are you going to do? Not acknowledge Matt Hardy's brother if he's part of your company? But anyway, so this match, right when both guys, they hit the ring before the match even starts, Darby Allin, he just attacks Jon Moxley, knocks him over into the barricade, and they just start brawling, beating each other down. They eventually make it back in the ring. They ring the bell, and the match starts. But you just saw that thing that Darby Allin, he's like a little angry chihuahua fighting a pit bull. But, I mean, the chihuahua is, he's ripping the pit bull's ear off, because Darby Allin, even though he got beat up and every one of Moxley's moves, he was throwing this kid around and beating him up, but every time he got thrown down, he popped right back up, and he was right in Moxley's face. It was a really good match. It was what we thought it would be. It was as hardcore and as rough and brutal as this match could be within, legality. They didn't use any toys or anything like that. It wasn't a hardcore, no DQ match, anything like that. But, like I said, just all this craziness. And then towards the end of the match, where is it here in my notes? Darby Allin, he fired off, he did that stunner move where he flips over the top of him and hits that stunner. And then Moxley, he hit sidewalk slam, and then he tried for the paradigm shift, but earlier in the match, Moxley had his fingers stomped on the ropes, on the turnbuckle. I think it was either on the ring that the turnbuckle ties into, that metal ring, or it was actually on the rope, but he had his fingers stomped, so he couldn't lock his hands for the paradigm shift. So then that was a big selling point in the match. And then, like I said, Moxley tries to lock that paradigm shift, but Allin, he was able to get out of that. And then Allin went up for the coffin drop. He fought off Moxley. He went up for the coffin drop, and he hit it, but Moxley, he caught him in a sleeper. And then Darby Allin did that. He flipped over while still in the sleeper. Moxley's shoulders were on the ground. And then Moxley, he let go of that. And then he they fight for a little bit more. Moxley gets him into the corner. He lifts him up, and he hits a avalanche paradigm shift. He hits it from the middle rope, and I mean, this thing was dirty. He freaking comes down, boom, hits this guy, and it's like, that has to be the end of it. And he pins him 1, 2, 3. And it's one of those things where obviously Moxley was the guy who needed to win. You got to keep his momentum going forward. And this doesn't hurt Darby Allin, because Darby Allin is still white hot with the crowd. People love him. You saw a bunch of people wearing his face paint in the crowd. And he's one of those guys where he needs to lose these big matches right now, because it makes the fans want him to win so much more. He'll get his wins on AEW Dark. You'll book him in matches on AEW, triple threat matches, stuff like that. He'll get his wins. He'll always be in the top 5, top 10, number 1 singles competitors in AEW. He'll always be up there because he's so popular. He's so over with the crowd, and this is another one of those guys they put into the slow cooker. They put him into the crock pot. He's taken 9 hours to cook. He's not a quick 4 minute meal. He's going to take a while, but he'll be so much better than that other, quickly booked, champion. So I feel he's going to get there at some point, and, it'll be great when he does. But Moxley was definitely the guy who needed to win here. So like I said, this episode of Dynamite, it was great. Everything I thought was good. The only thing, there was that referee botch, which was a little shaky. But other than that, it was a good episode. All the matches, the timing was there. It was great. The commentary was good. They kind of quick, patched up that botch the best they could. But, there's not really anything too spectacular being set up. The only thing I'm really looking forward to next week, from what I saw announced, was the finals of the Dynamite Diamond Ring, the MJF and Hangman Page. Because I'd like to see, if MJF does win, like I think he will, I'd like to see how he does with that, and then how Hangman Page, if he starts this heel turn, or where he goes from here. And obviously I'm excited for the Scorpio Sky and Jericho match. I think there'll be some story going on there. Who knows, maybe even the Lucha Bros could come in and screw over Scorpio Sky, because SCU, keeps screwing them over. So there's a whole bunch of stuff they can do. Obviously, if the match is clean and it's just these two guys, which I highly doubt, Scorpio Sky, nothing against Jericho, but Scorpio Sky will be able to, I feel, to carry Jericho to a really good match. So I'm really looking forward to all that. But like I said, there's nothing super monumental. But all this stuff is just kind of, because there's Scorpio Sky's not going to become the new AEW World Heavyweight Champion. There's not going to be any major title changes or anything like that. So I think this trend will continue of good episodes, but nothing super crazy monumental. Not like on NXT that's building towards War Games and there have all their guns blazing, and a Survivor Series. But like I said, overall, it was a really great episode, and I'm excited for next week. And then just to quick get into some slight AEW news over the weekend. Kind of wanted to wait till this boiled over and, saw what everybody said and then forgot about it. When CM Punk, I'm sure everybody saw his tweet that Tony Khan got into. And then Randy Orton, they were going there back and forth. Brandy Rhodes got involved, Charlotte Flair. All I want to say on the matter is that Tony Khan is in too high of a position to be tweeting back at WWE superstars and, throwing shade and bringing stuff up, saying, oh, well, you said this. If you want to say this about my, father or my family, I'm going to throw this back at you and say that. That's what you have guys like, John Moxley or somebody like that. It shouldn't be anybody who's in management. It shouldn't be Brandy Rhodes, shouldn't be tweeting, Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, any of the Jacksons, anybody who has an executive role that isn't just a wrestler. None of them should be tweeting at WWE guys with anything like this. I feel like that's just unprofessional. I would say the same thing if Triple H tweeted at, Kenny Omega and called him out. Or, if Stephanie McMahon or anybody like that. So that I just thought was a little bit unprofessional. And it's like, dude, I know he called out your father, that's disrespectful, but sometimes you just got to take the higher road and just ignore it. Because what are words? They don't mean anything. So that's all I really want to say about that. And thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this video. And tonight, Juan and I are going to have NXT, the go-home episode for War Games and NXT's. It might be their final build for Survivor Series. I'm sure they're going to probably pop up on SmackDown on Friday. So really excited to see what that build's going to be, even though SmackDown will probably be not very good of an episode overall. Still excited to see if they get any last-minute build towards Survivor Series and War Games. So we'll be reviewing all of them. Stay tuned for more. We're going to have previews and predictions. We might have some gameplay. Not sure about that yet because we're going to be at my house this weekend for War Games on Saturday instead of at Ryan's. So we might be able to get the PlayStation up, get some gameplay. If not, we'll definitely have the previews and predictions on both pay-per-views and the reviews on both of the shows as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. And you can find all our other social medias are linked in the video's description. And have a nice day. Ada.